Please welcome Mike Lynds.
Really, there's three main ones. There's what I call conventional. In the old school days, you heard about shoulder width, but realistically, I look at bone structure. So I always recommend hip width. So with women, they have wider hips than males, and male has hips than females. It's genetic. It's what it's meant to be. They're made to open up and have babies. We're not. So always think about how your femur inserts to the hip. So if you're in a basically straight up and down hip width, you let your femur travel in a proper position, and it has no shearing motion or anything like that to the hip. So when you start to navigate away from that, you got to ensure that you have the muscular system and the flexibility to do that. So let's get into regular. So I'm going to use this machine here. So hip width. So we're going straight up and down, a little bit of an angle out. Just get into it here. The big things you want to think about is you want your knees to travel naturally. So you want your knees to travel where your toes are, just dropping your hips, driving through that heel and straight up again. So there is what I call conventional, just hip width. Okay? The next one we're going to touch on is close together. So you'll hear this a lot with some coaches get their clients to go feet together, toes straight away. So when you do something like this, you're more so trying to develop the quad, and on the quad it's, essentially hitting the sweep. So same idea, letting your knees travel, dropping the hip, and driving up. With this one, what you have to ensure with your client is that you have ankle dexterity. If you do not have ankle dexterity, you're going to see their knees want to travel in basically a non-conventional movement pattern. So if they can't physically come down and have that flexibility to stay, so what is going to happen is they're going to go onto the toe, and their knee is going to have all the brunt of that force. So yes, you can shift the heel, put something on the heel to help them with the dexterity, or you're going to have to work on their flexibility. It's plain and simple. You're putting your client in a position that they're going to be prone to injury. So unless you're absolutely 100% sure that they're ready for that, just don't, unless you're with them. And that's just, it all comes down to dexterity and flexibility, which a lot of the population don't have. They don't have that dexterity. So the last one is something that you see a lot of bikini, wellness, more of like considered a girl movement, more than a male, is the wide foot stance, the dumbbell, the sumo squat, that whatever, frog squat. Hear all these different terms, but essentially it's just a wide foot placement, toes are facing out. Same idea, letting your knees travel, bringing that hip down, staying on the heel, and driving back up again. So this is more so working inner thigh, and it's actually incorporating a little bit more glute into the movement. So when you're down there, think about when you come up, you're pulling your knees together. So you're pulling your knees up, and that's going to activate more glute. So you're pulling everything in as you're pushing up. And I'll show you from the side. So if we're here, coming down, so I'm in this spot right now. I'm down as low as I'm going to go. But when I come up, I'm thinking about pulling my hips in, which will activate my glute. So that is more for like bikini, wellness, stuff like that. But those are the 3 foot placements that really encompass all of squatting, any machine, either high or low on the pad. But when you move high or low, that all comes down to dexterity of your ankles. So you got to remember, if you cannot get into that position and stay on the back of your foot, the heel to the mid, without driving onto the toe, you don't have flexibility. So you either got to go higher up on the platform to alleviate that, or you got to work on your dexterity. So those are my recommendations for those 3 different movements. For beginners, I would definitely stay with what I call conventional, so hip width apart, with slightly toe out, and again, concentrate on that dexterity when you go all the way down. So that's my view on those 3.